Retrofuture.
Yes. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and we are now going live here on Radio Retrofuture with our guest, Brandon. How are you doing, Brandon?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having me.
And you're very welcome. So today we're gonna talk about your current Kickstarter project, which is Wild Skies Liberating Strife. But before we go into that, can you please tell a little bit about yourself and your prior experience in this field?
Oh, absolutely. Well, my name is Brandon Ayton. I've been working as a freelance writer and game designer for about 14 years. I've worked for Third Eye Games and Palladium Books. Palladium Books is most famous for Rifts, and they did the old Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game. And we look at Third Eye Games, and Third Eye Games won an Emmy this past year at Gen Con for the Ninja Crusade, the second edition, and I was able to work on that book. Eloy Lasanta was gracious enough to allow me to work on that project, and it turned out great. But I've been working in the industry for about 14 years, with a number of titles under my belt, and a few years ago, my partner and I decided to go in and do Wild Skies, which was the first book from our own imprint, Wet Ink Games. So we were able to work with a lot of the people that we know and love in the gaming industry already, and develop a book which here's the first book, Wild Skies Europa Tempest, which is, in our opinion, a game that punches above its weight when you see a first product that comes from an independent game publisher. So we're very, very proud of the end result.
So let's talk a little bit more about the industry. It's not something I know a lot about.
Okay.
So you've been in it for 14 years. What has been like the major change that you've experienced? Like when you look back at when you started and where it is now, especially for beginning game designers.
That's actually an excellent question. When we look at the gaming industry as a whole, one of the things that we've seen, especially over the past 4 or 5 years, is an influx of small independent game publishers and new entries into board game and RPG card game development. I think a lot of this can be said for a lot of this growth can be said coming from the popularity of things such as Watch It Played and the Dice Tower, and especially Will Wheaton's Tabletop that you see, and a lot of that is a lot of that attribution has really seen a growth in an interest in games. Now, it's everything. We've seen that growth pretty much across the board, from the most complex games such as Twilight Imperium and Axis and Allies to even smaller card games and entry-level games. And we've seen that from changes as well in the RPG industry, from like Traveler and Burning Wheel and really complex games to in-between rule sets, kind of like D&D, and introductory rule sets that you see a lot of coming from independent publishers. These introductory or light, almost one-shot narrative games like Microcosm or Fiasco or the Adventures of Baron Munchausen. These are very light narrative games that anyone can pull up a chair at a table at a convention or at a bar and play and have a great time, and not necessarily be expected to have a 3-year campaign with the same gaming group you meet multiple times a week. It's a lot of different entry points.
Yeah, it's funny. I was at Dutch Comic Con this weekend, and I just happened to come across the Baron from Munchausen RPG by Fantasy Flight Games. And I kind of noticed that big publishers, especially Fantasy Flight Games, also has taken interest in like these smaller products These more are bigger publishers taking more chances these days, or the last couple of years, I would even say.
I would say so. When you see some of these bigger publishers, as you say, taking chances, the bigger publishers have an opportunity to do so because they have larger stables of writers and artists, and they have stable incomes, from their evergreen lines like Dungeons and Dragons or something of that sort. And
Cthulhu,
and they have an opportunity to, especially working with these licensed products, to kind of move over and say, all right, well, Brandon, I want you to try something new. What are you passionate about? And then if the pitch is good and they say, okay, well, it's going to be a minimal financial risk, or maybe it'll be a huge reward, let's see what happens. And Asmodee, who purchased, every week it seems like they're purchasing someone else. You get to see kind of where they get to go with it. They just released a new system called Genesis through Fantasy Flight, but then they get to use that system to develop and flesh out some of their existing properties, such as the Terranoth fantasy world, or eventually their Tannhäuser weird World War setting.
Radio Retrofuture has been made possible by the Groene Vee Absinthe, some of the best artisanal absinthe from the Netherlands. You can find their selections of homemade absinthe, both white and green, on degroenevee.nl/en, or click the link down in the description. Yeah, what happened to Tannhäuser? Because I have the game with some of the expansions, but I can't find it anywhere anymore besides Outlaws and stuff.
Well, they so Fantasy Flight stopped producing that, and they had done so with the promise that it wasn't necessarily dead. They're just kind of putting it on hiatus, and I don't know if that means they're going to be doing more of the Tannhäuser board game and miniatures, because I personally love it. I own everything for that game, and I love the miniatures. I love the path system. It's very easy to navigate on the board. But one of the things they are specifically doing is they're going to take that setting and they're going to make a source book for the Genesis game line. So they're at least going to use the property and develop it through another medium.
Mm-hmm. All right, interesting. A little bit more about that. But for your product, like the Wild Skies series, can you go with that to a larger publisher, and why or why didn't you do that?
When we had an opportunity at one point to go through some of the contacts that I have in the industry, at least to reach out to them and test the waters, we decided that we weren't really going to go with another publisher, primarily because when you look at this game, it hits a lot of buttons for people. People are like, great, it's Dieselpunk. I love Dieselpunk, and I want to play in a Dieselpunk setting. It's alternate history, which most Dieselpunk is just by definition, and then it's also anthropomorphic. So every player plays some kind of animal. If I'm given like an elevator speech, just very high level of like what it is, I say, if you take Disney's Tailspin and Sky Captain of the World of Tomorrow, smash it together, that's what you got.
That's probably a very good description, yeah.
And you can't put that on paper because I don't want to get sued. But when it comes right down to it, that's the feel of the game. And when a company would take a look at something like that, this is one of those projects that would be considered a risk, like we were just mentioning. Mm-hmm. And initially, some of the conversations we had, people were saying, oh, well, this would be great, but it's set after World War I, not really World War II, and because we'll go into that in a little bit more. It's also set in Europe as opposed to America, and it's not, maybe you want to do a space setting or a sci-fi setting. They were trying to take the idea and try to find ways to maximize their profit. And we said, well, that's all well and good. And if I was freelancing, I would take that information and say, I'll do exactly what you tell me to do because I'm contracted to do that. That's what I would do. But this was our idea, and we said, this is really the game that we want to play.
Exactly.
These are the stories that we want to tell, and we think there's people out there who would want to play that game. So we ultimately decided to create our own imprint, Wet Neat Games, which has been pretty popular as an independent publisher, and we've also decided to start developing multiple game lines, not just Wild Skies. And so when we took on this endeavor, I never really thought that we would be able to dive into not only this world, but also have an opportunity to explore all of these other settings.
Right.
And it's been great. We're really looking forward to the rest of 2018, 2019, and beyond. I was just talking to one of my other freelance buddies, and we're looking to have about 9 or 10 products over the next year or two. So
Impressive. Yeah, could you quickly summarize the product you have out right now?
Yeah, absolutely. So Wild Skies, as I said, this is our very first and main product. Wild Skies Europa Tempest. It is a Dieselpunk anthropomorphic RPG set in post-Great War 1930s Europe. The Great War didn't really end. It just kind of petered out. It was kind of extended. And as opposed to soldiers fighting over the what was perceived the honor and to the benefit of elites, soldiers said, I just want to go home. I want to go home back to my country. And they realized that in the setting there were revolutions, there were uprisings, things changed so much, and a lot of these soldiers were displaced, or they didn't have a home to go back to. And we look at things like the Kaiser being ejected from Germany, but eventually, after a year of internal revolution and strife and fighting, a unified government said, can you come back and kind of reestablish some rule, and so that happened in our setting. There's a lot of revolutions going on in multiple factions in Russia. England is now called the hegemony and is more of an isolationist and fascist government. France actually split into a north and south, a socialist and a fascist France. And so we just have a lot of this going on. So that's pretty much Wild Skies. And as I said, it's anthropomorphic. Everyone can be an animal. There's 40 different animal types with animal abilities, special powers, and you can pretty much build the character you want to play. And that's what was very important to us from the beginning, was we wanted to eliminate any randomness from character creation. We said, we just want players to play what they want to play. You want to play a giant bear toting machine gun who used to be a soldier but is now a sculptor? Great, you can do that. If you want to play someone who was a military officer but who's now a sky pirate, you can do that as well. We took the what I think is the most innovative part of the game. We took the alignment system and we took the experience system and we combined them together, which reinforces playing in the character that you've already designed and telling the story that you as a gaming group have decided to tell. So that's Wild Skies. Right now on Kickstarter, we have Wild Skies Liberating Strife, which takes that setting and expands it into America. And America has been isolationist for a while. The Great Depression didn't happen. The era of trust busting didn't happen. So we have a large company called the Great Trust, or the Dennington Corporation, which has control over pretty much 90% of the industry in the country. There is some level of competition and a small independent business, but for the most part, the America is one large corporation. And we go into the how the company works. We have new animal types. We have new careers. A lot of new player options, including the technology that America has, which is we kind of played on that whole like Edison versus Tesla thing, and so we have airplanes powered by voltaic energy and use lightning weapons and directed energy. The Statue of Liberty is a big point defense system in New York Harbor that not only powers those voltaic planes by sending current to them, but also can blast airships out of the sky using the giant energy weapon on the torch and things like that. We just had a lot of fun developing that setting and kind of expanding it. And we have a number of products slated for the future of that game line, which expand into other parts of the world. The Far East. We want to talk about some of the air pirates as well as underseas pirates to get some aquatic races in the game. And we really wanted to stick with that Dieselpunk and pulp feel. We wanted to feel like you're just opening up a pulp novel or a comic book from the Golden Age playing.
All right. People who are watching, by the way, don't forget you can ask any questions to our guests or me if you want. So please do so. It always livens up the show. So one of my big questions, and I forgot to ask it to my previous guest. How did you go along with the playtesting? How was that process?
So playtesting, when we first started developing this, we had a number of playtest groups that some of which were identified through our Kickstarter, through our comment section of people who said, "Oh, I'd really like to playtest those rules." But we have a pretty strong gaming community here in Louisville. I'm in Louisville, Kentucky, and we meet and we have a particular game group that meets every day. Every week, not every day. Man, that'd be great though. Every week, and our gaming group is made up of other freelance artists and writers and people who've been in the industry for a long time, people who've been gaming for 30 plus years. So we have a wide array of opinions, and then we've all been playtesters for other companies in the past. One of the things that we did was, we knew what we wanted to play. We knew things that we liked and didn't like. So we were one step ahead of the game at that point. A lot of times people say, well, I want to make rules for this game. And it wouldn't necessarily be something that they would enjoy, but they're making it for a different audience. And for me, I say, no, if I'm going to spend that time and develop a game, it's going to be something that I want to play. And then we took it to our gaming group. We took it to other gaming groups. We sent it to those other play testers. And, we solicited feedback from them. We had questionnaires. We said, what do you think worked? What didn't work? What do you want to see emphasized? And one of our early playtesters, who's actually writing another book, a different book for us in a different game line, he specifically said, if you're having this Sky Pirate or airship Dieselpunk setting, I want to make sure that air combat works. If you're a game about airplanes, I should want to be in an airplane and play it. So our system really explores dogfighting. So when you roll initiative, yes, animal puns are the best part about the game. You just have a great time making animal jokes, and but one of the things we really wanted to do was give you a feel of dogfighting, even though we're not a miniatures game, we don't have anything like that. So we recommend that people pick. And actually, I'm going to go in and do this real quick. An icon, maybe a die that represents their character, in the initiative order. And so you say, okay, well, I rolled high and this person rolled here, and you just lay it out on the game board. Well, if you're a pilot, you can only attack the people who are below you in the initiative order. So you're constantly jockeying for position to get in front of the other person. If you have a turret on your airplane, you can attack anyone in the initiative order, or whoever's manning that turret can attack anyone in the initiative order. So that was just some little mechanical things that we did in the system itself to give that feel, and people have loved it. So.
Yeah, right. Oh, it just happens that I'm working on a review of a game called Leviathans, published by Catalyst Game Labs. Who was the guy that developed it again? He's a BattleTech veteran. Randall.
I don't developed it, but Leviathans. That's one of those games that that I love. I have it right up here on my game shelf, and it's just such a cool game.
Yeah.
It looks great on the table, and that's another one that I feel I wish would come back into popularity, and they could do so much more with it.
Yeah, do you know what happened with it? Because, I don't know anyone here. I saw it, all of a sudden it was everywhere, or at least I saw the boxes everywhere.
Right.
But when I asked, nobody knew what it was. And the box doesn't show the miniatures on it, so when you only have the box, you don't know what the hell you're buying. And then there's also the price, because I see a lot of comments online while researching the game, like, oh yeah, I'd love to have this game, but like 100 plus euros, like 145 euros, including postage, it's
oh yeah.
There are a lot. I feel I've got a suspicion there are a lot of problems with the way how it is marketed. But do you have more information on that by any chance?
So, one of the things that I've noticed in the gaming industry is that if a game is not a standard box size, it better be the best game in the world.
Oh yeah,
I totally agree. It's got to be. And Leviathan initially was a gigantic box. Like, it was
a beautiful
huge
box.
it is. But if you're a retailer and you're having to put that on your shelf and dedicate that much shelf space to a game that's going to have that entry price point, it's a big ask for any brick and mortar retailer. And so later they came out with the French and the English boxes, which were the standard board game box size.
Yeah.
And those did okay, but I think it was too little, too late. And I hope they do more with it, and they expand that a little bit. But I don't know. Catalyst is doing a lot right now with Dragonfire and Shadowrun, Crossfire, and BattleTech is always BattleTech. So
yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to reach out to the original creator, and maybe he can tell me a little bit more what happened, because like they had this website, and there was a sprawling community on there, then everything just died. And the thing here, like, there was nobody who was playing it, so I could play it with whomever was interested, but I have so many. It's a 2-player game. Well, you can play it with more people, but there are so many other games that I love playing with larger groups of people, and then you've got Leviathans. I haven't touched right now. I haven't packed it for the review, but I haven't touched it in years. I played it like treat. Are you trying to find a way to build up your steampunk lifestyle, or are you just looking for an original gift? Check out Steam Chest and get a subscription box mailed to your door every month. It's a surprise box that contains up to 6 items, ranging from music, ebooks, to t-shirts with original art. For more information, check out their subscription plans on chestofsteam.com. Thanks.
Well, I think one of the things that would be cool to see, I mean, you look at Asmodee, who bought Fantasy Flight, and they bought all kinds of stuff. I think they've done fleet battle level games justice with Star Wars Armada.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to see a Dieselpunk Fleet Battles type game, maybe using those mechanics.
Mm-hmm.
I think hex maps are great, but they can be kind of restrictive. But I look at I look at Armada, and it's all open space, and how you navigate is using your navigation tool, and it's pretty cool. And the fact that they bring fighters into it, not just different size levels of ships and your large capital ships, things like that.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, they did a video game of, what was it, Warhammer 40k Battlefleet Gothic. It was an interesting system. Not really a game that I would pick up at any time, but still the fleet battles were pretty tense.
Right.
Pretty hectic. You had to micromanage a lot to, actually, take control of your fleet rather than just send, you got to go over there and you got to go over there. No, you really had to, like, those goddamn orcs are gonna ram all my ships. It's.
I used to play EVE Online about a decade ago, a little more than a decade ago, and EVE was the same way. I mean, you're playing, you could potentially be part of a guild, and you'd have massive ship battles and things like that, and it was a great game. I really enjoyed that. Well, one of the things that we've thought about doing is doing a card game in the Wild Skies setting, where you're playing a mercenary group or a pirate group, and you do different jobs based on the equipment that you have at the time, and you're trying to complete more jobs to have either the most victory points or money at the end of the game. And this is all in very early stages of development, but this is it. We're at least looking to use the property and branch out into something else, and we want to be able to say, we want to have like air combat and like the boarding of airships in the game. So it's not just I'm playing solitaire building my ship and my airship and my crew, and you're building your airship and your crew. We still want to have that player interaction where maybe this one mission card says board an enemy ship and steal 3 resources, and you're like, great, I can totally do that because I have the stuff. So we want to develop a card game there, and we have a number of other game lines which are in development, but most importantly our flagship line right now in pretty much is Wild Skies. We have the core book, as I said. Liberating Strife is on Kickstarter right now, and you can get the Kickstarter Liberating Strife edition. You can get the original core book, the Europa Tempest, on that Kickstarter as well. You can also get PDFs of the of everything that we've done for Wild Skies, including 5 other factions and 2 full adventures, all through that one particular Kickstarter. So if you say, and it's all at a discounted price, like if you were going to go get all that stuff on Drive-Thru RPG and pick individually every single thing that we've done, we're giving you a discount by doing it through the Kickstarter as well.
Yeah.
Which it only makes sense. I want to reward the people that support us and help us grow and develop new ideas and new books.
All right. Looking quickly at the chat, Steam Chest is one of our sponsors. Yeah, check out their website on steamchest.com, if I'm correct. But don't worry, the commercial will come on in a moment when I've edited this interview. Notice the Sins of Solar Empire. Great game. Haven't played it that much, but it's are you familiar with that video game?
I'm not. No.
It's it's out for quite a couple of years now, but it's also all galactic conquest, but more in a real-time strategy kind of feel. You could also build these huge capital starships, and it was quite a good game. There were some other elements I didn't like as much about it. Let's see. Steam Chest, you can also play it with Star Trek mods, because of course you can. And Mission Reloaded, I have played EVE for a decade. Yeah, I can understand the appeal of Eve. There are also a lot of things like, yeah, I'm not gonna start because it does look like a game for accountants, but
it is a game for accountants. No, I look at Eve and like, I had a great time playing it. I just couldn't dedicate the time and resources.
Yeah.
At the time I was in school, and now I have 3 kids, so I barely get to play. It's like pulling teeth to get to play the amount I can and do the writing and game development that I can. So.
Oh yeah. I was amazed. There is this video online that has a summary about about a war that was fought in that game, that led to a complete novella series. It's like, okay, about things that happened. Then you've got like guilds involved in that war, like the doggy bag guild and.
Yeah, well, there was one of my favorite stories from that is a couple of people from one guild infiltrated this other guild and rose up and became executives in their corporation. Oh, and then one day they orchestrated a complete they just stole everything from one of their fleet headquarters and attacked all of the ways out of one system and just completely eradicated this one other guild.
Yeah, and there was also this guy that just took off with everything of value of one guild.
Yep.
Just stole it all. Just in one day, everything gone. Like trillions of whatever currency they have in that game, gone.
Yeah, it's ISK, I think, is the currency in the game.
Incredible.
ISK. It's been a long time, but I hear stories like that, and I'm kind of jealous. I'm like, man, I'd love to do that. But then again, with role playing, and you have the opportunity to tell as big or as small of a story as you want, and that's one of the appeals for me is being able to do that. And we're talking about games that the changes that I've seen in the game industry. One of the things I've seen a lot with some of these micro games is gaming getting to like a more personal level. So like I looked at like Fiasco, and one of the first things you do in Fiasco is figure out how you know everybody, what the relationships are, and how you're tied. I've seen another game which was on Kickstarter earlier. It was called Kids on Bikes, which is kind of playing on the Stranger Things success. And it's all about kids who are friends in school, and you're going on little adventures. So like you can go as small as you want. We're riding on bikes and solving crimes. But then you also have a game like Microcosm, which the entire game of Microcosm is you create a civilization and you tell the histories of this civilization, and it can be as grand or as infinitesimal as you want.
Kind of reminds me of the board game Small World.
Yeah, Small World is a great example. It's a pretty easy point of entry for a game, but you're developing these empires, and you get to see the rise and fall of these little empires. You don't go into like the detail of like the history or anything, but your dwarf your underground wizards maybe survive for 3 turns, whereas someone might have some skeletons that last for 8 turns or something like that. So that's a great game. Another game that actually one of the writers for our stretch goals for Wild Skies Liberating Strife, his name's Ryan Schoon. He's the first stretch goal for Liberating Strife. He has a game on Kickstarter right now called Gears of Defiance, and the entire point of Gears of Defiance is there's something that you're rebelling against, and all the players get to decide what that is. And then you all play a family that is rebelling against that. You're like a freedom fighter faction or something, and it looks really cool. And Ryan's a great guy and a great designer. But again, that's going down to the personal level that you can see in some of these games.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm currently involved in the Kickstarter of our Iron Harvest. It's based on the same world of Scythe, designed by Jacob Rosalski, and I hope to get in touch with Jacob at one point, but he seems to be rather shy, unfortunately. But yeah, you see all these people, they have a Discord, and it's really active, and people are always posting ideas and giving feedback on certain ideas that the developer. So we're now starting to see, like, while, the big publishers like EA and Activision are, producing more of the same, basically, Ubisoft. We see this real industry of indie game designers coming off the ground. With a Kickstarter, they're designing a game. Some company in I don't know where they are anymore. Poland, I think. And then they have supporters from all around the world, from Asia and the United States, and all investing in that game. I'm not sure how far they are with Iron Harvest right now, but they already made a number of stretch goals. So, and they're reaching a stretch goal for a co-op campaign. So,
it looks fantastic. It looks like Jacob's art, and Jacob's art is one of the most evocative things that I've seen. When I first saw Scythe on Kickstarter, like I backed it day one because it looked gorgeous. This is relevant to my interests, and that's one of those things too that you see these backers from all over the world, and that's one of the things I like about Kickstarter as an independent developer. I don't know anything about video games other than, like, hey, I play them, but I have some very specific friends in the industry that I trust. And if I was ever approached to do a game in the Wild Skies setting, there are people that I would not even dip my toe in that water without asking some of these people. Right. And that it's just one of those things. I see some of these games that are out there that are in development, and you see some of these people coming from Asia or Europe or South America or North America, just all contributing, because, like I said earlier about Wild Skies, that was a game that I wanted to play, and I see these people say, this is a game that I want to play, and I'll give $20 or I'll give $50 to this company so they can realize their vision for a game that I want to play. And hopefully that's what we do with Wild Skies, and any game that Wedding produces is developing a game that piques people's interest and gets them to a table with their friends. And if we can kind of expand that so people can take Wild Skies and go to a convention in, on the other side of the country or on the other side of the world and play it with people, that's exactly what I want. I just want people to play the game and have a great time doing it.
Oh, yeah. The game that got me into RPGs and the more complex board games was a game called Hero Quest.
Right there, right up here.
Of course, you've got it. Yeah, so I actually also invest a lot of money, to have one with some of the expansions. Just for, this is where I started with, And
Hero Quest, great.
Yeah. Well, I tried playing it with some friends a couple of times after I got it again. I was like, oh my god, this game is broken. Like, compared to modern standards. I also tried Star Quest. Do you remember that? Or Space Crusade, it was called.
Yeah.
Oh my god, we tried playing it with like one player, and it was just impossible. It was also impossible to kill. I think it was the Iron... what are they called? The Emperor's Fist Marines?
Oh.
All of a sudden I forgot their name. I watch if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device like rigorously, and now I forgot their name. But yeah, anyway, that game is broken beyond belief. But now I have World of Smog, Rise of Moloch. Are you familiar with that title?
Yeah, I am. Actually, I was talking to someone on your Facebook group about that yesterday. I wanted to back that on Kickstarter, but I was in on something else at the time, and man, it looks really good. I'm probably
Oh,
still going
it's
to end up.
incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, but I also London Dread is another one that I've picked up, um, as well as the like Arkham Horror card game series.
Hmm.
Um, so those are some of the games that I like. But man, Rise of Moloch, uh, that game looks great.
Oh yeah, but yeah, what I want to talk about, because now I've also started playing with some of the expansions, the Dragon in particular, and there are it's taken on a lot of cues from HeroQuest, like the dice with defense, the skulls and the shields. It has a similar system, only improved on it. Except looking to accessorize? Check out steamywonders.de for steampunk-inspired jewelry, gadgets, and other handmade items. Yet there are quite some holes in the rules, unfortunately. Like some of the details are like how poison works in the Dragon expansion, for example, is a bit unclear for certain monsters. And right now, a lot of criticism comes at the guys who created it for a lack of response to, like, there are a lot of typos. Monsters are addressed as agents are addressed as monsters. Those kind of things. A lot of, well, there needs to be an errata. And right now, there is a lack of response from the guys who are making it. So, how do you intend to deal with how did you deal with the aftermath? Like you published the game, you ended the Kickstarter, people are getting the PDFs and the physical copies. So then what happens?
So, we're pretty responsive to pretty much anyone. They reach out to us on our Facebook group or in the comments section or a private message on the individual Kickstarter. We'll respond normally either like that day or the next morning or something like that. Some of the things that we've done, we have a copy of the book that that was a printing error. Just something on the cover. But one of the things that we've done with that is we started taking the typos or anything that we have found or things that we know that need correction, or hey, there was this one particular line that was omitted. We've taken to marking that up or putting a little post-it tabs in that. And so eventually down the road, when we do a second printing, or if we do maybe a second edition, a few years down the road or whatever, if it calls for it, we've talked about, having all of that information there. But we've also, we're using that for an errata. We've collected that information and to have a complete errata document that's kind of a living document that once we get our website up and running will be there. And we also want to make sure we can make it available to people on DriveThruRPG once we have got that and have it completed.
All right.
Yeah, but pretty much if they have an issue or a question, they can reach out and like, hey, did you mean blah blah blah? I have people who message me either when they're running a game. They said, oh well, hey, this came up in our game tonight. I've had people who message me in the middle of their gaming session, and I can give them an answer for their players. So,
all right. Well, so listeners, if you decide to participate in the Kickstarter, so what is one of the things you've learned during the creation of your the first part of Wild Skies? Was there a mistake you made or something like, oh, well, we're not going to do that again?
So one of the things that we learned was, even though we've worked with a lot of people for years, making sure that we understand what other people are involved in, especially creative types, our writers and our artists, what they're involved in, and making sure that we set realistic expectations for our writers and artists, saying, hey, if we need this by June 1st, that means we need it by June 1st. And make sure we level set with them, and not just like, oh well, hey, this is Brandon, he's my friend, I'll get it to him when I get it to him. We're running a business, and they're doing all of their creative endeavors as well. But we also want to make sure that we don't burn any bridges. We just want people to understand this is the product that we're developing, and that we've also learned that creating a rule system from scratch, it takes a long time to make sure that you have all of the interactions together. You've thought about it. When that was one of the things that when we created our rule system, just going through editing, we're like, okay, well, if we said this in this particular way on page 13, then that's going to affect what we say and how we address something on page 140. Yeah. So going through that with that eye and that mindset is very important. Not only are we going to be going through and doing all of the editing ourselves, but we actually have an editing staff that's going to be working on Liberating Strife in our future games as well. So that's really one of the things that we learned is it takes a long time to develop a system and do it right. And we also want to make sure that that we emphasize the importance of an editor. I think we did a pretty great job with people that we had review it initially, but we have a professional editor on staff this time as well.
All right. Well, we reached the 45-minute mark, so I want to go to the final segment of the stream.
Okay.
If anyone in the stream has any questions, this is your last call, so to speak. Do you have any questions for me or?
No, I stumbled across the Steampunk and Gaming Facebook and Radio Retrofuture, and it was great actually being able to find some music that we can use in our games, just to set the mood or ambiance. And this is a Dieselpunk and Steampunk gaming is a category that I think, I don't want to say is neglected, but I think that there's a lot more interest in it than people realize.
Yeah.
People lump it into a different category. They go, well, or maybe like general sci-fi or history, but it's really cool to know that it's out there, and I hope that more people can get a feel for those kinds of games, and hopefully through that discover wild skies and see if they want to participate and play those kind of games.
All right. Yeah, be free to post anything you find. I rarely have time to post in it. I should do more often. And some days it's like, oh yeah, hey, I found this on Steam and I share it, or but yeah, I should do it far more rigorously. But between video editing, I might be working again next week. So I may have found a job today.
Oh, great.
Yeah, so I'm really happy about that. And also the Iron Harvest group, like my Discord group, I should be posting a lot more in those groups, but yeah, at this time I really need a media manager for that. But yeah, maybe we can talk a little bit later on that. So yeah, do you have some final words? Do you want to share something, or do you have some words of inspiration for the listeners?
Oh yeah, absolutely. One of the things that I really want to drive home is that the Wild Skies Liberating Strife Kickstarter is on now. It goes on till May 1st. But if you want to get in on that, please do so we can make sure that we can reach some of these awesome stretch goals that we have, which will not only expand the setting, but give players and game masters new information to play with and to really make their games completely awesome. And we want to make sure that you all can spread the word, and I want you to know that you can get not only Liberating Strife, but also the core rulebook of Wild Skies Europa Tempest, and all of our other game aids that we've produced for the Wild Skies game line through the Kickstarter. So you can go in, if you just want PDFs, you can go through and do PDFs. If you want to do print and PDF, you can do that. You can even say, well, we're going to add hardcover, because we can have hardcover or soft cover books. And we also do, I kind of want to point this out as well, we do custom dice for our campaigns that aren't going to be available through retail or anything like that. So if you say, I want to back Wild Skies and I want to get some of the custom dice, we did a design of all lightning D6. So there's pictures of that on the Kickstarter page. So please check it out. And you can follow us on Facebook. We'll gladly talk about anything and everything Wild Skies and Wet Ink Games, including some of our potential ideas for the future and new games that will be coming out shortly.
All right. Well, thank you for all that, and thank you for your time. People who are listening right now, please thank you for watching live and asking your questions in the chat. Don't forget, we have a Patreon these days, so please check that out. And, you can help us just for $1 each month. That would be great. We have a lot of stuff going on. We're working on the second season for Radio Retrofuture for Fallout, and I'm really enthusiastic about some of the material we already got. Some of the previews are already on our Patreon. So yeah, I have a lot of hope for that. And yeah, I'm also working on the next video that will be on Leviathans, the board game. Which I intended to make a quick video before getting on something more serious, but yeah, I already took that made it far too elaborate already. So yeah, that's in the works as well. We're also preparing for an event at Elvia in the Netherlands. That's gonna take place at Haarzuilens by the end of April. So expect some pictures of that as well. So yeah, as always, way too much going on here at Radio Retrofuture. We also have been working on a website. As soon as I have a job, I will create a domain name for that one as well. So you can have a complete overview of all the projects that we are involved in, including an overview of all the people that have been working so rigorously at Radio Retrofuture these last 2 years. Yeah, 2 years already. And 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all very much for making that happen. I didn't expect that to be the case, so... well, with everything calming down, people, I thank you a lot for watching. Of course, have a look at our sponsors as well, who make this all happen. And as always, make it your way. Good night.